Share all this.
We're live
Nice.
early.
A little early. You're on the West Coast this week.
Yeah, the left coast. It is like 45, 50 degrees outside. So it's
Oh
not like
wow.
it's that much warmer than where it is that you're at, but it's a
Well,
little
you're
warmer.
what? You're north. You're in Seattle area, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
So I would assume that the sun's going to go down quick. I don't know. So I haven't figured it out yet.
Yeah, it's in the 30s here. I mean, they're calling for snow tomorrow. I live like just over the border in Wisconsin, so yeah. So it's yeah, I'm not excited for the first snowfall, but we'll see if it even lands.
How much snow?
Just a little. I mean, not much. I'm assuming a dusting. It's too early for a heavy snow, but
Yeah. Yeah.
any snow is too much snow. I'm to the point in my life where I'm like, yeah, I'm over the snow. No more snow.
When did you break down and buy a snowblower?
Uh, I never did actually. When we bought this house, the guy left his snowblower here, so we just kind of.
Okay.
I mean, it's not the best, and then like it's funny because like I wouldn't use it like the first year or so. I'm just like,
Not too
I'm a
proud.
shovel guy.
Yeah.
And then at some point, I'm like, I'll try it out, and I'm like, wow, this is fantastic. I had no idea, but yeah, it's now I'm the guy. I'm out there. Like I only pull it out for big snows. How about you? Are you a shovel guy or a snowball guy?
Still a shovel guy,
There you
but like getting to the point
go.
where, especially those big ones, and you're like, maybe it's time. Maybe it's
Yeah,
time to put away the shovel and save your back. And yeah, I always kind of thought like, let's kind of work out. I
yeah.
don't have
That's
to
how
go
I
to the
look at
gym.
it. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's a good workout.
Not really ready for that, but what are you going to do?
We're getting there. I mean, it's mid-November now, so it'll be
I
here
know.
any second.
I know. It's gone quick. All right. You want to just bounce into this thing?
Let's get going here. I'm ready to rock.
All right, let's do it. Welcome to Bear of Balance. I'm Jeff Berckes, a writer for Windy City Gridiron, and I'm joined by the editor of that fine website, Lester A. Wiltfong Jr. Lester, really fun first three quarters yesterday, and then the fourth quarter happened. But how are you feeling about this particular, fourth quarter that just didn't quite work out for the Bears and a tough loss?
Yeah, that's a game the Bears should have won. I mean, if you look back at it, hindsight, there was some mistakes, obviously by the Bears. The defense, they couldn't get a job done, but the offense, they didn't come through and make plays when they had to. That they left some stuff on the field there. The officiating, that's a whole other story. But yeah, this is a game the Bears could have won. The Bears should have won. And I know a lot of fans are like, "Hey, it's a great tank loss," and the wins matter. At some point, it's good to see have a young team learn how to win games, and this team's not quite there yet. I know a lot of people in the media are kind of criticizing the fact that they can't pull out wins like this, but this is still 10 games into a rebuild or a reset, whatever you want to call it. So it'll come, if it doesn't come, then I guess this team has a lot more problems because it's never going to happen. But I think Justin Fields is the guy. I think the Bears have that quarterback, solved, and moving forward, this team will eventually learn how to win.
Yeah, I think that I had a couple thoughts on that. We have
I knew you
people in
would.
our orbit that certainly are into the tank loss thing.
Mhm.
I don't like the tank loss thing. Now, when I'm at the end of the year and I look back and I say, what pick do we have and where does that project and all that kind of stuff? Yeah, I want a higher pick, right? But when you're going through the season, I really don't know how you can be like, oh, that's cool. We get a higher pick. Yeah, whatever. Like I'm too even now, I'm still too emotionally invested in these games
Yeah.
to want to be like, oh yeah, that's cool that we had a 96% win probability at the start of the fourth quarter, and then by the end of the game, yeah, we lost. No big deal. Just whatever, move on. Like I can't do that. If you're a well-adjusted human and apparently can do that, that's great. Good for you. But I can't do that in the season. I can only do that in hindsight and be like, okay, that's cool. Let's take that year, kind of forget about it. And so I don't really love that conversation that happens. Like I don't want this team to lose. And I do think if you get into this losing culture, it's really hard to get yourself out of it, right? And so I think that right now the the things that Justin Fields is doing is going to set the Bears up for a potentially really great free agency period, because I think that there are going to be a lot of people that want to come play with a dynamic quarterback. If he is ascending into where we think he could be, which is like a top 5 quarterback, then a lot of people are going to want to block for Justin Fields. A lot of people are going to want to catch Justin Field passes, and they're going to want to play defense because the Bears are going to win football games because they have that guy. And then if you're going to win football games, that's when you get more primetime games. That's how you get paid, right? These guys aren't stupid. They know they want to go to teams that win. And so I do think that he's going to be the ultimate recruiting tool, but it does still help if you're winning football games and then showing that you're going to get on those primetime games. So I can't get there quite yet. I know maybe in the offseason I'll be happy with the final record. I just can't do it during the year.
Yeah, I'm the same way. It's a matter of, the locker room, the guys in the locker room. There's no such thing as tanks. Organizations may set themselves up to where they're not going to have the best record due to whatever reason. This year, a lot of it was the salary cap. They were handicapped with a lot of dead cap space, draft picks, handicapped with not having all their picks. They made some moves. Moving forward, yeah, that's one thing. But this year, it's those players want to win, man. I mean, Justin Fields sat at his locker in full gear for like an hour. He didn't even go and meet the media until way after, because he was upset. The defensive players talked about how upset they were with the loss. They talked about how they have to do more for Justin Fields. I think this team is Justin Fields' team. I think they all are going to rally around their guy, their leader, the QB1. And I think that's good to see. And like I said, those wins eventually will come. They will learn how to win these close games. They're just not quite there yet.
Well, let's get into the categories and let's talk about this game. Let's not belabor it too much. But Portillo's Trench Tribute, of course, you guys don't know, if this is your first episode, interesting one for you to choose to tune into. But giving away $100 gift cards. We continue to do so. Please just comment who your player of the week is. You get brownie points from us if it's a lineman of some type for the Trench Tribute, but it doesn't have to be. You can make it Justin Fields. You can make it Khalil Herbert, like whoever you want to make it. You can make it Jack Sanborn, right? If that's where you want to go, leave it where you find where you get your Bear and Balance, or you can email us at 2ndcitygridiron@gmail.com, and we will enter you into the random drawing that we do once a week. So Portillo's Trench Tribute this week. Lester, you go first.
It's a rough one. I mean, it's a rough one. The defense, of course, got gashed quite a bit. There was one guy that kind of stood out above the rest on defensive line. I'm like, well, maybe him. The offense, I'm like, just a rough one. I'm going to go Michael Schofield. I thought he did a decent job, for stepping in. Tevin Jenkins, of course, was a late scratch. I'm sure the Bears knew about it. As fans, we weren't aware of it, but he was questionable because of that hip injury. We all thought he probably would play through it, but it's tough. I mean, it's a pain threshold thing. It's if you can't move the guy in front of you, you got to take the game off. So Michael Schofield coming in unexpected. I thought he was fine. He was decent. Nothing spectacular from any of those 5 guys up front. But of those 5, I thought he was okay. And I thought the fact that he's able to step in and at least keep things going. I mean, the Bears offense still put up 30 points here we're talking about. So it wasn't like, the game, the offense had, too many struggles, but still the pass pro wasn't the best. Run blocking was okay. But overall, I got to go Michael Schofield. I thought it was pretty cool that he was stepping in and, local guy. I think it's a cool story.
Yeah, I had Schofield written down in my short list. I really kind of challenged myself a little bit because I wasn't really seeing anything in the offensive line either.
Right.
Like you say. So and the defense, it's tough to honor somebody on the defense when they give up that many points. But I will say that coming into this game, the Bears were giving up a lot of yards on the ground, and Detroit is actually really good at running the football. And when I went back and rewatched, I tried to, where are they getting their yards and where are they being successful? And to be fair to the Bears defensive line, they were not having any success up the middle. They had to run on the outside. Now, what does that mean? Justin Jones had a couple tackles for loss, looked pretty good. And then I wanted to just say Armon Watts as well, right? So 2 interior guys thought they had pretty good games. Not perfect. They got that last, down at the end, they gave up a touchdown on the ground, all that. I get it. It's not a perfect game, but I want to at least kind of point out that those guys play pretty well. particularly when they had, that the defensive line has not done very well this year at all, and they're against a good rushing football team. So I'm going to give it to Jones with a little assist to Armon Watts.
Those are good picks. I got Jones. I'll talk about him a little later, but yeah, I like Jones. He's the one guy that I was thinking about for this here as well. Decent, decent game. Watts had a couple flash plays. Those and Blackson, Angelo Blackson, each week continues to make a play here and there. I know he's coming off the bench now, but he's a veteran. He's obviously not a long-term fixture here, but he's a solid rotational guy, and so he's okay. But just overall, the defensive front seven had another rough one.
Yeah, I don't think we need to probably belabor it too much. So why don't we move on to the tweet of the week? So what did you come up with this week for what the Twitter machine spit out? While we still have it.
Yeah, of course. This was all over the place. This is mentioned a lot, but I know not everyone, is on the Bird app. So at OptaStats, they tweeted out the Chicago Bears are the first team in NFL history to score at least 29 points in 3 consecutive games and lose all 3 games. It kind of goes what we're talking about. The defense hasn't been the best, but the offense, as many problems as the offense still has, it's not a finished product by any means. Justin Fields not a finished quarterback by any means. There's some issues there with the receiving core still, but man, the offense, it's at least fun as Bears fans. We're seeing our team score points or moving the ball. It's unconventional, sure, but they're putting points in the board. And like I talked about earlier, man, it's going to click. Eventually they will learn how to finish. They're able to get, most of the game, racking up a ton of points, just can't finish. It's coming. It's coming.
Boy, that's a depressing stat. I don't think, I mean, like, what's so funny is that before the year, you have these conversations, right? These hypothetical conversations. The number of 5-minute I've had with Robert Schmitz that take an hour and 45 minutes. I just need 5 minutes, Jeff. And then it goes on for 105. But you have these long conversations with people and you just sort of play these things out. And the number of times that there was some facsimile of, boy, if Justin Fields can just take that step and the offense can just look functional. I don't need the best scoring offense in the league. I just need functional, Jeff. That's all I need, right? Like you hear that, and then we get this. We get more than functional. We get a really fun, different, exotic running game that's like actually doing some things that I'll get to here in a minute that I think are pretty interesting. And they lose games because the defense is terrible, because they have lost their 4 of their best players from last year to letting them walk in free agency or trading them. And they're young and they're under talented, and it's a gap here. And then we still get upset. And I get that because you want to see the games won, but we are actually getting a lot of what we were hoping for in the preseason. We are actually seeing this ascension of number one, and we're seeing a functional offense. We're seeing an offensive coordinator that looks like he has figured out how to move the pieces around, despite the fact that, let me remind you, not a lot of talent on offense either.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, there's some good running backs. Obviously, Justin Fields' development. Those wide receivers still need to step up. They still don't have a deep wide receiving group, right? And Chase Claypool is not up to speed. So, I mean, I feel like it's I don't know. It doesn't even feel like empty calories to me. This is what we wanted. This is a good result, but it's just hard in the moment because you want to see the W's.
It's such a strange thing to see as Bears fans because we're not used to this. I mean, yeah, during the Tressman era, they had some pretty nice offensive performances coupled with some Mel Tucker D, which is just bad. But that was just a different team, the Bears were in a different place then. Now the Bears are in a place where they may have the guy at quarterback. Finally, after all these years, they may have finally got the guy. It seems that way. The offense now starting to trend upwards. I mean, you could say the Bears have had probably one of the best offenses in the game the last month of the NFL season, which is, again, such a weird statement to make. But look at the numbers, look at the points. It's true. It's there. They're not winning games, but it's, the offense has been clicking. So it's a weird place to be as a Bears fan. We still understand that in this day and age, you got to be able to pass the ball. It'd be nice if you can win games, but we got to see the passing game eventually click. So again, man, it's coming. We just got to believe it as Bears fans. We got to see the trajectory is pointing up with Justin Fields and the passing offense. It's getting there. Oh, let's
Uh,
talk about the defense. This is a hell of a tweet.
and I let me just say, I was at the Washington Commanders game. If you could have given me some long odds, I say like, all right, Jeff, put $100 down, and I will give you 100 to 1. The Bears are going to have a top whatever offense in the next month. I would have been like, no, I'm not going to let you steal my money.
Yeah.
Right? There's no way. No one would have taken that bet after what happened in the first month. So my tweet, Jonathan Wood, our friend Jay Wood, he is at Jonathan_Wood1. In case you are wondering just how bad Chicago's defensive line has been, in the last 4 games, they have played a total of 918 snaps and accumulated 0 sacks and 7 quarterback hits. That's so bad.
It's brutal.
It's so bad, right? Obviously, there have been sacks. We know that Sanborn had sacks, but like this is from defensive linemen. So they have not played well. And that's, some of the thought was, okay, you trade Robert Quinn, who was not having a good year in Chicago. Don't get me wrong. You trade Robert Quinn, and that opens up more reps for these younger guys to see what you have. And that's what we're seeing, right? So we are seeing, like, can Travis Gibson ascend into the guy? Can he be, your number 1 edge defender? Can he be the number 2 edge defender, right? Is Al-Qadim Muhammad a guy that you can count on? No. What's Dominique Robinson have, right? I mean, I still have some hope for him, right? I mean, he still shows flashes, but you have to get some level of consistent pressure with just your 4 down linemen. If you want to be successful on defense, you can't hang your secondary out to dry. I don't care how good the secondary is in terms of talent level. It is one of the, if not the most talented unit on this team. So I don't really care how much the secondary improves. If you're giving the quarterback all day, it doesn't really matter. And so this actually does probably tell a story of where the Bears are going to spend some resources in the offseason.
Yeah, it's got to be the D line. I mean, if you would have talked about investing draft picks or free agent money into the defense early in the season, Bears would be like, no, how could you? The offense is so bad, but the offense will turn around when there's just a lot of holes on this roster. I mean, the O-line has to be touched up, the receiving core has to be touched up, and that D line has to be touched up because, like you said, it's Muhammad. It's I think Justin Jones is a nice piece. He's obviously you're going to be here for another year with the contract. But, if you can find a better 3 tech and now he's your top reserve off the bench, I think that's probably better for you as a franchise. You got to find another pass rusher or I should say you have to find a pass rusher because Travis Gibson's not getting it done. Robinson's still kind of young. I still think there's some upside there, but it's just not happening. So you got to find someone there. And this is where the Bears are going to go attack it in free agency. And I'm not sure if there's any top D linemen available. I haven't really had a chance to go over the thing. Plus, it all changes. We're still early into the season. Things will change. Guys will be cut. They're not expected to be cut. But, they're going to have to invest on that D line a little bit to find some passable players here.
Yeah, absolutely. There's going to be some investment there for sure. So why don't we move on to the stat of the week? Caught up in a numbers game. What did you pull for this one?
I'm going to stay consistent. It's the same number I had the last 2 weeks because the Bears have been inching closer to this record. That's 225. The Bears are now the first team in NFL history to rush for at least 225 in 5 consecutive games. Against the Lions, doing for 258, which actually increased their league-leading rushing mark, averaging 201.7 yards per game. They're the top rushing team in the game. It's just, it's old school football. It's may not be sustainable in this day and age because you have to be able to pass to win, but it's fun watching how they do this. A lot of it is Fields, and his scrambling ability, but there's some design runs here too from Fields where he's just, the Bears have blocked it well. It's a nice play design from Luke Getsy. It's just fun to watch this, and I keep going back to the hope as Bears fans, man. Once the passing game catches up to the run game a little bit, this should be a really, really fun offense to watch.
Completely agree. You actually stepped on my stat, so I'm going to just kind of roll in with it. That 201.7 number is my stat of the week.
Oh,
nice. I have been watching the yards per game slowly climb or quickly climb, really, over the last 5-6 games as this run game has really hit its stride. And it went over the 200 mark, and I thought that's fascinating, right? I mean, we're deep into the season. I mean, there's 10 games, right? So 201.7 yards per game on the ground. Obviously, a lot of that has been fueled by Justin Fields, but let's not forget early on there was some really great. There was a great Khalil Herbert game. There was a great David Montgomery game early on in the season. So let us not forget about that. As a whole package, it's pretty fascinating. So I went back in time to see what other years stick out for the Chicago Bears. And again, different eras of football. I understand that. But like, what is a comparable year do we have in team history? And so obviously you're going to think Walter Payton, right? It's going to be Walter Payton years. So 1985 Chicago Bears averaged 172.6 on the ground per game. 84 is a little better at 185.9. The best Payton year, which shouldn't surprise anybody, 77. They averaged 200.8 yards per game. So still, they're ahead of that great 77 year. From 77, basically before Payton, you got to skip a couple decades because there's some bad Bears football between that time. You got to go all the way back to 1956. That's Gallimore, Caceres, that era, right? 205.7.
Oh, wow.
Is what they averaged on the ground there. And then you go back to 51, 200.7, so about the same. That was the Johnny Lujack spike. So that's the year that Johnny Lujack had a lot of rushing yards. So you had a quarterback that was adding to the rushing game. 48 and 41, so you have kind of the start and the end of the T formation domination era. They averaged 204.3 and 205.8 per game. So again, kind of in that era, and this was a dominant group at that time, Hall of Fame offensive linemen everywhere, a lot of that kind of stuff. And then go all the way back to 1934, which who knows how good those stats are, but 219 yards on the ground per game. And that's the Beatty Feathers 1,000 yard season year.
That's incredible. I mean, I was wondering where those numbers were all time. I'm glad you dug those up. I had a feeling you're going to dig those up because you're very good with the historical research. 219, I mean, the Bears are 201. They're over 200 yards a game. It doesn't happen very often. The Bears are actually on pace. Yes, it's a 17-game season now, but they are on pace to eclipse the Ravens record, which was set in the 16-game season. They're now on pace to have the all-time leading rushing yards per season in the NFL history.
That's pretty amazing. Something to root for in a year where the Bears aren't going to make the playoffs. So to me, that's pretty fun. Yeah. Well, there is a little bit of that, right? Especially since after the Falcons game coming up, the Jets are playing better football. They've got the Packers, which you got to play the 11 in green and gold, and the guys in the black and white stripes. And then you have the Bills, the Eagles. Those games are going to be really tough to get through, right? If you don't have something to cheer for. So, excuse me. Let's jump into the Fields report. 12 of 20 for 167 yards passing, 2 touchdowns. The one very critical pick six that he threw, that tied the game up. That was rough. 13 carries for 147 yards and 2 touchdowns on the ground. I mean, the touchdowns were both unreal. I mean, the long touchdown, we're going to be seeing that highlight for a really long time. It was kind of fun how they were teasing what was it? They called it the big one or the little one.
Yeah.
I was like, what is this all about? And how he was able to, obviously Okudah got him on the pick six, but it kind of got him. That was just a bad throw by Justin. That wasn't a great play. It's a fine play, but it wasn't like this great corner play. It was a bad play by Justin. But that run where he's able to outrun everybody and then kind of snake in and break those pursuit angles. That's a fascinating run. But let's not forget about the short touchdown run, which was he's dead to rights. He's running to the right, and then he just shakes off a tackle and comes back left and then piles into the end zone. What is happening with this guy? These highlight runs are just taking over, and they're taking everybody by storm. And at this point, I think it would be a mild upset if he's not a Pro Bowl quarterback, because I think people are in on the Justin Fields experience.
Well, I did an article at WCG yesterday. I was kind of looking through Twitter, and I got an email from NFL, and they just list all these records that Justin Fields has hit, and I'm like, wow, there's so many there. So I kind of went through them all and I put them in an article. So if you haven't had a chance to check that out, make sure you go to the site. There are just so many records that he is and milestones that he's hitting. The most ever 2 game stretch for a quarterback in the history of the league. He's the only quarterback in the Super Bowl era with multiple rushing touchdowns of 60 plus yards in the same season. Just so many. The last 5 games he had 555 yards rushing. That's the most by any quarterback in a 5 game span in the Super Bowl era. So, just so many records that he's hitting here. So many Bears records, so many NFL records. It's exciting. Can you imagine where the Bears would be without Justin Fields? This team may not have any wins this whole season. And there was some talk on Twitter, and I think it was one of the ESPN or NFL Network guys. They mentioned the MVP candidate Justin Fields. Of course,
Orlovsky.
Orlovsky. That's never happening. The Bears
No.
are a losing team. Never happening. But the fact that people are starting to think this way, and I had the same thought yesterday. I'm like, where would it be? The true sense of the MVP award is not. It's the most valuable. Is it for the league or most valuable per your team? If it's per your team, is there anyone more valuable to their team than Fields is right now in the entire NFL? It's ridiculous what he's doing. From just an individual standpoint, his percentage of yards for the team has got to be like well over anyone else in the NFL right now.
Yeah, I mean, it's a similar year to Lamar's MVP year in a lot of ways, and what Lamar was doing is kind of taking the league by storm in a very different way. And then again, this wasn't Justin's game in college. And so the fact that they leaned into this and he's embraced it and it's really helped unlock things, I think just really speaks to when the passing game does catch up. And I'll say when it does, not if it does, because I do think it's coming. And so that to me there's this other level for him to reach. And so it's just really exciting. And, we've been in on him for, we're really excited. We understand how quarterbacks develop, in a nonlinear way, and it's slow, and we're trying to figure all this stuff out. But yeah, I mean, obviously the Bears would be all win 17. I mean, they would make the record books for bad reasons. He's making the record books despite everything else around him. There's very few guys that are going to be on this team in 2 years that are currently on the squad. So that's one way to think about it too. So I think there was a nice well, obviously the league play that Komet scored on was fun, right? Where he's wide open. But there was a couple of scrambles and then keep himself alive, kept looking downfield and hit some intermediate throws downfield, scramble drill. That's the kind of stuff you want to see. It's not he's always taking off. And the Lions, you can see that they were rushing disciplined for a fair amount of the game. Like they were trying to stay in their area. They weren't letting him get outside. Like they had a conscious approach to how they were going to rush him so that he wasn't going to be able to do some of the crazy Justin Fields stuff that he was doing. But he still finishes 147 yards rushing, right? And so that's what's happening. He is breaking things. Like he is breaking pursuit angles. He's breaking some of the basic rules, because how do you train for this guy? How do you practice for this guy? And I think part of it is I think he is much faster in real life than he looks like on film. Like I think people don't realize just how fast. I mean, you keep hearing it. Yeah, I didn't realize he was that fast. Man, I didn't realize he could move like that, right? And I think it's just the way that he runs. It doesn't maybe project, because I think he's bigger than what people might think he is. I've heard people say, he's kind of a small quarterback. It's like, this is not a small guy. What are we talking about here? Yeah. So there's something about the way he looks on film, and then once they actually see him in person, it's like, oh, this is a different thing.
He doesn't have the shiftiness of Lamar Jackson, but he's just as quick and has the acceleration where you can stop, start, and get going. I mean, the real long play he had where he kind of broke through the line, his acceleration. We've saw it now for a few weeks now, and he gets to his top speed quick. That's what you want to see as an athlete, and he gets there. Like I said, he doesn't have the shiftiness. He's not elusive as to the point where Lamar Jackson is. Because when you watch Lamar Jackson run, it's just he's on a different level. The stuff he does is just so ridiculous. The way he's able to just juke guys and dip in and out of their stuff. Justin Fields is more like foot in the ground, accelerate and go, and it just it's cool to see because both styles work, you know. And then just like Lamar Jackson, he still gets, people still say, "Oh, he's not a quarterback," but his passing numbers eventually caught up to where he was. And yeah, he's not, Peyton Manning. He's not going to sit in the pocket, but it's fine. I mean, it's the NFL. Today's NFL, you got to kind of do both. I think kind of seeing the evolution of the quarterback position, and the passing game will get there at some point because, like you said, this wasn't his game in Ohio State. He wasn't an option run first guy. He was in the pocket passer guy. I went back and watched some of his Ohio State film recently, and just kind of remind myself, like, exactly who he was. And he'll get there. It's a slow process. This is only his 20th start in the NFL. I think if you look at where he is with his draft mates, I think he's probably the best quarterback of his class. I think Trevor Lawrence is still pretty good, but the rest of the guys, he's right there where you want to be. The arrow's pointing up.
It's going to be a fun storyline against the Jets, because imagine what the Jets would look like if they would have done the smart thing and taken Justin Fields.
Yeah.
We will break here real quick, and on the other side of this, we're going to talk about everybody's favorite segment, the Three Bears. All right, Lester, let's talk Three Bears: hot bowl of porridge, cold bowl of porridge, and just right. I'll let you start off.
I got to go Lake Zurich native, University of Wisconsin's Jack Sanborn, undrafted free agent, 12 tackles, 2 sacks, 2 tackles for loss. He had the interception that was called back because of some phantom penalty. But man, Jack Sanborn, I mean, who expected him to playing this good? I know there were a lot of fans.
A lot of people.
In the preseason, they said it, but I don't think they actually believed it. The fact that we're seeing it now is kind of cool. Can you keep it up? I think that would be great. I mean, if you found a future starter as a UDFA, that's some nice scouting right there for Ryan Poles and his staff.
A lot of people liked him because he's, Big Ten. So there's that, a lot of people watched him and they got excited about it. And I don't know.
Suburbs,
Yeah, it's like, all right, fine, like whatever, we'll see. Has all the instincts, he plays smart. And if you're smart linebacker and have instincts, that means that, and you're going to put in the time, you're going to put in the film work, right? So it means that you're able to anticipate and you're able to be somewhere quicker, because that doesn't take that split second.
Yeah.
So that allows someone who might not, if he raced Roquan Smith in a race, he's not gonna keep up with him, right? But because you can make up for some of that with those instincts and with that internal processing and with the all that, he's not Roquan Smith, but like he doesn't have to be. And this defense actually works well for someone like him to make tackles. And if he's instinctual and he's got sound technique and a good enough athlete, like, yeah, you can do this. You can rack up tackles. What I didn't expect so that's what you can rack the tackles. Yeah, sure, 12 tackles. Okay, yeah, really good game. That's awesome. Didn't expect the 2 sacks.
Yeah.
I didn't expect the interception that should have counted, because what was that? What happened? Why was that guy in a heap on the ground?
I think he was just flopping. I think it was so weird. I mean, like how would you even think to flop in that situation? Like, what are you selling at that point? I mean, he was hit in the chest by Johnson. It wasn't like he was even close to the face mask or close to the head or close to the eyes, whatever it was. But he, like you said, he went down in a heap, like he was selling something, and it worked. And unless maybe he saw the ref pull the flag out of his eye, and he figured he'd stay down there for a little while. That was just a very strange overall play. And then, of course, all the replays come and they're like, what are you hitting? This takes us back to what we're talking about the last few weeks. Where's the sky judge? Someone should be able to call in and say, hey, man, you guys missed that. That's a clear miss. There was no hit to the face. It was a pop to the chest. Pick that flag up.
I don't understand what happened. Like, I really don't understand where he hit him to make him do that. I'm not even doubting. Like, I mean, I don't know how you do that, so I don't know. Like, did it come up to the throat? Like, what happened there? It was weird, and like, he was just in a heap. It didn't make any sense to me. But yeah, there were a couple other calls that were, I didn't see any that went the other way. I honestly watched for it, but then I didn't see any real flags thrown against Detroit. So apparently
they only got flagged twice, I believe.
So they're super disciplined now. That's a thing. Now Detroit's known to be a super disciplined team.
It's kind of hard to bite kneecaps when you're that disciplined, but hey,
That's
they
that's
pulled it
insane.
off.
I had Sanborn too because I figured it Fields is a given. He certainly deserves that. So we'll leave it at Sanborn gets it this week. Fields continues to eat because Fields can have whatever he wants.
Yeah.
He has open whatever Fields wants here at this point. Cold bowl pours. Let's flip it around to the other side. Who'd you want to nominate for this?
I'm going to go Jalen Johnson, cornerback. Didn't have the best of games. He did have that oblique injury. So Coach Flus had a presser today, and he said, I'm going to quote him here. Ultimately, it's going to be up to them, talking about the players, if they're going to able to play through injury. If they say they can go, that means they can go. We have to trust them and really have to leave it up to them. I agree to a point because if you watch Jalen Johnson playing, he did not look like he's running with the same speed. The oblique could have been bothering him. I talked to Dr. Mason West because I know the oblique somewhere in the torso region. I'm not sure it was, but it's basically under the love handles. It controls a lot of your core movements. So if you're hurting there, you're not going to be able to do anything full speed. He did not look full speed. He got beat quite a bit. He was trailing plays quite a bit. And now Jalen Johnson is not a 4.3 speed guy, but he's a pretty good athlete. He's got some speed, and he just didn't look the same. So I thought maybe he did leave the game with injury a couple times. I don't know if it was a pain management thing or whatever, but at some point the head coach or his position coach or the D coordinator say, hey, look, Jalen Johnson, you're not effective. Take a seat. We're going to go with
We
another
love
guy.
you, but
yeah.
That's a good one. Yeah, he got beat by that tight end over the middle on that crosser. That was
terrible.
particularly bad. That's something that Jalen Johnson should not be getting beat on.
Yep.
So at some point, it just makes more sense to have a healthy backup level player out there. So for me, I got to give it to Cairo Santos. So kicked the ball out of bounds, didn't really hurt him, but that's an issue. On a kickoff, you give the opposing team really good field position. Again, that drive didn't go anywhere, but still, that's a mistake. But then the real mistake is missing a PAT. And again, he's been great all year. We like Cairo Santos a lot, but that is particularly tough in a tight game. You lose by one. The whole dynamic of the game is very different because it's a tie football game. You're probably going to overtime. In that last little bit, if you can't move the ball. Bears obviously don't, and they lose the football game there. So, I guess you just like to see and make that point after kick. You can give it to anybody on defense too. I mean, I get it, but he just makes a PAT, and this thing goes into overtime. But I'm particularly irked because I threw a swipe right alternative total bet on this game because I thought there's just going to be tons of points, and I had over 62.5.
Oh, there it is.
And so if he would have made it and that would have gone into overtime or somebody, the Bears would kick field goal at the end of the game, they would have got 65 points in this game, and I would have hit a nice little alternative bet. So really it comes down to Cairo, that's a couple units that you shaved off of my pot there. So that was rough.
Yeah, that's a good one, Cairo Santos. That's it's a PAT. I mean, yeah, it's not the same PAT it was back in the olden days. But still, that's a kick that every you shouldn't miss those, and he's missed a few now this season. That's a good one there. I mean, I didn't hear anything after the game. I mean, was there an excuse? Was it a slip? Was it a hold? I mean, it was nothing. It was just he just shanked it,
and no one focused on it. No one talked about that. Even I saw people that we write with. It was like, oh, the difference in the game was Fields doing this. It was like, I mean, very literally, the difference was a missed point after touchdown.
Yeah.
It's 31
to 30. Yeah.
Literally, that's the difference. Yeah. So, what are you gonna do? All right. Let's move on to the just right.
I talked about it earlier. It's Justin Jones, defensive tackle, three technique, 3 tackles, 2 tackles for loss, 1 quarterback hit. He was one of the few guys on defensive line that was kind of doing his thing, and his penetration, you can kind of tell, was effective. Like I said, I did mention it to 2 TFLs. He was making his presence known out there. I thought he did pretty good. I also want to quick mention Joe Thomas, strong side linebacker, had a couple of those passes defended. It's funny because that position in this defense is not obviously a glamour spot. It's the strong side backer. Joe Thomas was out of football for a touch. I mean, the Bears cut him. He was on the street. No one wanted him. They brought him back to the practice squad, and then they had some injuries, and instead of giving it to the UDFAs, they said, "Hey, Joe Thomas, we'll just call you up and we'll start you now." It just kind of shows you the position of value of that linebacker, the off-ball linebacker, the Sam, just not that high where you can start your practice squad guy there and he can be, he's fine. I mean, it's a position the Bears have to address next season, but you can get by with plug and play guys at that spot.
Yeah, I had Joe Thomas written down as a note here, so I will go with my other just right. Khalil Herbert, 10 carries, 57 yards. So about at that 6 yards a carry that he's been averaging this year. The first down runs that go for first downs, very few things in life make me happier than that. It's so nice, right? So he's been really fantastic all year. And someone posted a leaderboard of running backs. Now the Bears they haven't had their bye week, and so I think some of these teams might catch up with some of the running backs, whatever. But top 10, it was like a top, 12, 15 list or whatever. So just to show that Justin Fields is now like in the top 10 for rushing yards in the league. And there's the heavy hitters up top, right? The Derrick Henry and Nick Chubb and those kind of guys. And I'm like, but wait, the 11th ranked guy is the backup running back, Khalil Herbert. It's pretty amazing what he has done from an efficiency standpoint. And I know that the pass blocking isn't there. I know that he might not be the greatest receiver out of the backfield or whatever, but what he does when he carries the football is mighty impressive. And I don't know, man. I want more carries. At least this was an even split with Dave Montgomery this game. I want more. I want more Khalil Herbert carries.
Yeah, the carries were there. The playing time wasn't. He did have a hip injury that he had to leave the game for. They didn't address it today. I'm sure we'll find out more on Wednesday at the press conference after practice. Man, if Herbert's gone for any length of time, that's going to hurt this rushing offense because behind him is Treston Ebner, Darrington Evans on the practice squad as well. But it'll just be the demo show, and I think we like David Montgomery, but I think we like that 1-2 punch. So hopefully Herbert's able to go.
Yeah, I'm not even going to entertain that until I hear something official. So, well, that's the three Bears. Before we get out of here, I did have some notes about penalties. So if people don't want to hear about penalties, they can turn it off. But first drive, the hold on Braxton Jones. Did you see a hold there? Is that called on somebody different? Like, did they called 70, but I didn't see a hold. It was down by the goal line, and then it killed it. It looked like they were going in for a touchdown, and then they had to kick a field goal.
It was very ticky-tack. I mean, it's as offensive linemen, there's holding and there's grabbing. And we talk about grabbing's fine. What happens is he's grabbing in there, and then once the defender kind of gets away from your body, it kind of shows the pull of the jersey. And sometimes the refs let that go because it's not really affecting the play. These refs were ticky-tack. It was just I didn't agree with the call, but I see why they called it. But it's like, come on, that play usually gets let go 9 times out of 10.
All right, no call of the Komet shot, the shot play. I tweeted this out. Look, I'm of two minds. One, if you're going to be consistent in the league and call these pass interferences where the receiver has to slow up because it's an underthrown ball, the defender's not looking and makes contact, then you have to throw the flag there.
Yeah.
Like that was absolutely what happens. Every single football game, it gets called all the time. To not call that is ridiculous. Is it because he's a tight end? Like, why are you not calling that? I don't understand. But I also hate rewarding underthrown passes where the receiver comes back. This is what, I mean, I was pretty upset when they called this on Eddie Jackson, right? But Eddie Jackson was in good position, right? So that's the difference. So I kind of hate the call, but like if you're going to call it, then you need to give the Bears that call as well. And that one would have been nice.
Yeah, that was a clear pass. Again, 2 weeks in a row, the clear pass interference. It clearly happened. Like I said, maybe it was Komet. Maybe the ref just wasn't expecting it, or sometimes the bigger players kind of get they can fight through it because they're bigger and stronger. Sometimes these refs have that in their mind. So I don't know. I didn't agree with it either. It's another one. Chalk it up.
The no call on Komet late,
Late.
where
Yeah,
he's
that was
coming over, he runs into him. I think they just missed that. There's just no way that you see that and don't call it. Like I think it was just they weren't watching it. I can't think of another explanation. I also have late hit written in the quotations. I don't really actually remember what that was.
I'm
Apparently
sure there was one.
there was a late
Yeah.
hit call that wasn't really a late hit. But anyway, yeah, I did notice a few calls that went against the Bears, and I didn't really see the calls against the Lions being bad calls because there weren't a lot of actual calls.
Yeah.
So no, it was not really called both ways. Is what
This
it
is
is.
it's you hate looking at the refs and trying to say this, but
I
man,
hate
this
it.
is this is in a, happened a lot this year. It's in
Yep.
maybe it's just happening more than usual because we're kind of more hyper focused on what's happening now. But it's just it's been a really strange year as far as the officiating goes when it comes to the Chicago Bears. Just some blatant, just some really egregious misses where it's like, how do you miss that? The one on Claypool last week, the one I commit that this last game. It's like, then of course you mentioned the one with commit across the middle where how do you miss that? I mean, Komet's running his route and he just gets collided into by the line. It's like, what are you looking at? There's a guy there. I mean, there's a guy watching that part of the field, but yet they didn't see it.
It's insane. It's insane.
Ridiculous.
All right, let's close this up. We'll stick around for a few minutes. I have something to do today. That's why I had to go early. But we'll stick around for a few minutes for the YouTube crowd. But what's going on at the site? What's going on channel? Want to highlight before we get out of here?
Yes, everything. I mean, it's a lot of stuff. Sack watch, of course, coming up. Sam's got his stock watch tomorrow morning. At some point, it's gonna pop off. There's every day something new, something fresh. Whether it's the site, the podcast channel, or the YouTube channel.
Yeah, I'll just mention that I am in Seattle. Those of you that are watching this can see my background as a hotel room once again. Hung out with EJ yesterday, watched games with him all day. And then Wednesday, we will do a live Bears over Beers together. So join us Wednesday for that. It'll be a little earlier than we have been doing. So it'll be probably more around the 6 o'clock hour instead of the 8 o'clock hour on Wednesday. But we'll keep you up to date of when we actually go live. We got a couple things that we're going to do beforehand, and then we'll get into that. So looking forward to that. Yeah, well, winnable game on the schedule here coming up. The Falcons are not a great football team, and certainly a winnable game there. But we will check in with you guys next week when I'm back on home turf. And until next time, bear down.
Justin Field back in Georgia next week. Should be a nice game for him.
On
the fast turf and in the dome. So maybe he'll set another record.
Yeah. Oh, Michael Vick.
Yeah.
What is this? Get out of here. That's not even a real question. Get out of here.
Yeah, that has to be someone goofing around because.
Justin Jones, only person in the trenches. Get it? Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, I like this game. I've liked this season. It wasn't. He was
solid.
Obviously he was Plan B from Larry Ogunjobi, obviously, but for the money they're paying, it wasn't outlandish. He's making starter money, but it's not ridiculous money. It wasn't Ogunjobi money, so it's fine.
John, hard disagree. Herbert's averaging 6 yards a carry. I'm sorry, man. Those are great numbers. He has too many carries and too many explosive runs to not just respect the fact that he's been doing great. Monty's fine. His year is fine. There's nothing wrong with it. But Herbert has been fantastic. These efficiency numbers that he's putting out are amazing. So
yeah, I think with Herbert, you said it's the efficiency. It's what he's doing with his carries, and then with Montgomery, it's like some people want to knock him, but every game there's like 2 or 3 carries from Montgomery where you're like, how does he get that many yards where he's just tackled? Hey, look, he's back.
Our buddy.
He's finally back in here.
I don't know if you're still here, Don, but I was on the Pride of Detroit podcast last week, and I asked about you. I didn't know if you were a Pride of Detroit guy. They said they didn't know you. Yeah. We asked about you a couple weeks ago. We were wondering if you're okay. Like,
He
we
took
didn't
like
know
a
what
month
happened to
off.
you,
Yeah,
man.
he took a month
Yeah, did
off.
you like go to Tahiti and like what happened, man? So yeah, we're happy to have you back. We wish you would have come in and talked the trash last week before the game, but you come in afterwards.
No
I get
wait.
it. Get it.
This
That's
kind of reminds you of
interesting.
when the Lions had their nice little run against the Bears. They won like 6 in a row, and they were ready to hoist the banners. Put it up at
Hmm.
Ford Field. We
Gotta
beat the
hang it.
Bears 6 in a row. Congratulations, well done. The banner's going up. We beat the Bears in a rebuild year.
I mean, they had to have something. Did they make up rings for that? Or is that a
I
ring
think so.
ring kind of thing too?
More
Uh,
banners. They're gonna hoist
yeah,
the
at least a
banner.
banner. Yeah. Well, I
Yeah.
mean, honestly, to be fair, there is a lot of room in the rafters. There's not a lot of competition.
No.
Put it right next to all their divisional championship banners. Oh, all right. Yeah, the hands in the face was before that, and then there was another one like right after it, and that was the one where the guy was in a heap, and I don't really understand
Made
what
no
happened.
sense.
I couldn't tell. I certainly couldn't tell at Buffalo Wild Wings. Like
No.
the sound wasn't on, and they're playing music. It's kind of weird. Most of the time I've gone to these sports bars, they have one main game with the
Yeah.
sound on, and then the rest of the games, and they just played music through the whole first slate.
What
And then
kind
the
of music
second,
was it? Was it like
it was kind of like kind of 70s rock kind of thing.
okay?
It was all right, like whatever. And then the afternoon slate, they put the Raiders. That had a big Raiders contingent, and it like really filled up. It was like a lot of people there, and so they had the sound of the Raiders game. But where I was sitting, the Raiders game wasn't on, so it was really weird. Like I was like, can I get a Raiders game on one of these TVs so that I can connect these two things that are happening? It was so weird.
Raiders.
A lot of field stuff about passing versus rushing records. I think if they were winning, that's the
I think
difference.
the
It's
wins are
not
the
it's
key.
not whether or not it's running or passing. And again, this is since the mini bye. Like this offense was pretty inept. Again, I was sitting there in the Washington game. It was a terrible offensive performance. And so this is a very new thing, but they're not winning. And unless the MVP is always going to go to almost always going to go to a quarterback or some sort of record setter, and it's going to be on a team that's doing well. That's just how it works. So I don't. If he was setting running records and the Bears were 8-2, they would be absolutely talking about him for MVP because it's fueling wins.
Yeah, real quick, let's go back to that Washington game. You were there, obviously. It was 7-12 loss against the Commanders, but that was the game where they kept stalling in the red zone. They were moving the ball. They had 391 yards total that game, so they were moving the ball. This was kind of like the start of they're learning how to put the ball in the end zone. We kind of talk about how they have to learn how to finish games. Well, early in the season, they couldn't. They kept stalling in the red zone. These last 4 weeks now, they've got that part figured out. Next step is let's learn how to finish.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. I mean, it's a progression for everybody. Chris, I feel you. I feel you.
Oh, that's a rough one there.
That's rough. Yeah, I had I no one cares about my betting, but my day was fine. Like it was, as I think I was down 2 units or something like that overall. 3 games that I had some stuff riding on. 96 or above percent probability. I tweeted out the 3 games, right? Buffalo game, the Bears game, and the Dallas game. Because they blew those leads, and then the alternate point thing. 15 units. I would have been up 13 units on the day, and I was down 2. 15-unit difference because of 3 collapses. And here's the thing. I think I bet it right. Like I bet the right way. And it's just football, man. It's just football. But yeah, missed boy.
That was a ridiculous ending in the Vikings game.
All 3 of them.
Yeah.
But that one was the worst. That one was that one was, well, I don't know about the worst, but it was just like the most improbable. It was unbelievable. They had that. Yeah, I don't know. That was wild. I don't know what's happening here. I saw this while we were recording. But someone said, ML Field says, Montgomery gets better with more carries. And then Sanders says, feed Monty. Herbert messes up his rhythm. Oh,
I think these are just big Demo fans. I mean, that's the old school mentality, right? With a plotting type back, and I'm not saying Montgomery's exactly that, but that was Jordan Howard back in the day, right? You want to feed him and wear down a defense, and I mean, there's some truth to that sometimes, but when you got a guy like Herbert who's averaging 6 yards a pop, you got to sprinkle him in there. You know what I mean?
yeah.
It's just got to happen.
Yeah, I can't agree with that mentality. Sorry, guys. I'm on my phone because I forgot my webcam, just so you guys know. So I'm on my phone and I'm looking at my computer. We got to move it
You're
here
a
to
trooper.
keep seeing these comments. So, okay, yep, but that's what the late hit was, out of bounds. Look, was it Gordon or Brisker that they called it on?
I think it was Gordon for the punch,
Gordon,
right?
right?
Tried
He went to
punching out.
punch,
Yeah.
and then I think Goff, he might have slipped, he might have gotten tangled up in his feet, whatever it was. But they honestly, like, that's one of those like hits moments where maybe you got to just be smart. And if it's Khalif Raymond with the ball and you try to punch it, what's going to happen if you punch it out and he's on the sideline? It's going to go out of bounds. Yeah. Like at some point you just don't do the punch. I don't know. I think it was kind of silly.
Yeah.
But yes, I did put late hit because it wasn't really.
Got a Bellis Jones fan in the chat there.
I know this is not a pro Vikings podcast, but I think I was annoying EJ by how much I was talking about. Just EJ is having a conversation with a third gentleman that came in.
The Chargers guy?
Chargers guy.
Okay.
He does some stuff for bootleg. They were kind of having bootleg conversations, and I'm watching football, which is what I was there for. And I'm like freaking out about the catches that Justin Jefferson was having because they were ridiculous.
Yeah.
They were amazed that both of those guys missed it because they were talking about spreadsheets. And I'm like, guys, like, you gotta watch this replay. Like, this might be one of the best catches I've ever seen in my life. And like EJ's response was, yeah, he's good. He's good football. It's like, dude, no. Just stop what you're doing and watch this catch. It's ridiculous. Nah, he's really fun. So he took over, but he's really good. I mean, the Vikings just have such an amazing history of wide receiver. It makes me sick, but what are you gonna do? Monty is better. Bad call. Okay. Well, efficiency stats say otherwise. And then Jailbreak says Herbert is better cutback guy, fits the offense better. Could be. Yeah. I mean, maybe it's an offensive fit, but
I think Monty's a better overall football player, but as far as a pure running back,
right,
Herbert is better because like Jailbreak says here, in this offense, it's a zone scheme. It's stick your foot in the ground, see hole, hit hole, and go. That's what you want to do. Montgomery's a little more, he wants to do a little more shiftiness stuff. He's more power. I think he'd fit a power scheme better, a gap scheme. But as far as the outside zone, which is what the Bears do a lot of, I think it's a little bit better fit. But like we said, though, it's a good combination. Like these are two good. It's a good duo to have here. Both these guys are going to be good, and we both want to see the Bears bring Montgomery back. I think it'd be good to have them both there. But sometimes the finances just don't work out that way.
I'd like to see what this looks like if things were flipped, in terms of, and this game and 2 games ago, not last game, but 2 games ago, was even distribution between the two backs. Last game, it went back a little bit more Monty heavy. I'd like to see it stay that way or go 2-1 Herbert in terms of carries. I know that might tip your hand a little bit. Maybe you don't want to demote Demo, but that's kind of where I'm at, because I'd like to see it more like the Chubb Hunt situation. Give Herbert the Nick Chubb role, but we'll see what happens down the stretch. And he's just been so efficient. effective, and
Yeah.
so many explosive runs, and it's just you got to give a guy more of that. But
Yeah, I think part of it is with a guy like Monty, he would actually he's not as shifty as your traditional third down back, but he fits that role perfectly. He's good out of the backfield. He's a good pass blocker. So if the Bears ever decided to flip him and make Herbert your starter and have Montgomery be your number two, I think that might be better. It's just like I said, Monty's not the traditional, McKissick. He's not this, really fast guy out of the backfield or like the Bears had with Cohen. He's not that, but he fits that role. I think it's like I said, it's a good problem to have. The Bears have two good running backs. They both do what they do very well. Just too bad the Bears aren't winning to kind of see what could happen. It's coming. I truly
it's
believe
coming.
that Justin Fields will get there and they'll get this team there, and then we'll see what happens with the offense.
Yeah, well, 2023 and off and running. So, all right, we'll leave it there. Appreciate an active comment section as always. Really appreciate that, and like to see that. I think I highlighted most of the themes. Hopefully, sorry if I skipped over anything. I do have an appointment I need to get to, so I will be taking off here. But thanks, guys. Next week, things will slow down for me next week. We'll spend a little bit more time on this and back to normal time next week. But appreciate you hopping on early with us.
Get those Portillo's picks in.
Absolutely. See you guys.